Some sort of empanada.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Josh Lipsky. I am the president of the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trust Board of Directors. It's great to see everyone here. Great day, and this is always a great event. This looks like a particularly good one that's shaping up. Thank you so much for joining us for our 2026 Breakfast in the Park. Let's see. Let's start with thanking our sponsors. The business community has always been a vital partner with the Greenway Trust. We're honored to work with local businesses who share our commitment to conserving and caring for the green spaces that keep all of us and our communities healthy. So please join me in thanking our sponsors of today's event. I'm going to list them, so thank you for that. Thank you to our presenting sponsors, Greenvelope, Amazon, Puget Sound Energy, and Waste Management of Washington. Our leadership sponsors, the Boeing Company, Cascadia Law Group, and Tri-Point Homes. And our friends of the Greenway, Facet. Next, I'd like to offer a special welcome and appreciation to our elected officials and their staff who have joined us here this morning. We're truly glad you're here, and because of your leadership and support, we were able to do the work that we do in the Greenway, and we couldn't do it without you. So to the elected officials, thanks for being here. Next, I'd like to thank our board. So, if you are a member of the Greenway Trust Board of Directors, please stand. Come on, Ken. Each of these individuals volunteer their time, they share sage advice, and generously support the Greenway Trust. Together, they comprise an incredible diversity of talents and perspectives, from businesses to government agencies to nonprofits to local communities. And they share a single purpose, the care and conservation of the Mountains to Sound Greenway. If you'd like to learn more about the Greenway Trust Board of Directors, or you're maybe interested in joining the board, please reach out to me or any of the other board members. There's a little thing on our name tags that tells you who we are. I'd also like to thank those members of the board who contributed to today's match. Thanks to those folks, gifts of $500 or more are matched up to $40,000. So thank you very much to those board members. Last but definitely not least, I'd like to give a shout out of appreciation to our Greenway Trust staff. This is an incredibly passionate, thoughtful, and skilled group. And I'm going to take the liberty of speaking for all of us to say that we are extremely grateful to have them working with us for the Greenway. Could all of the Greenway Trust staff members please stand up? You are a powerful force for good. Your dedication to conserving and enhancing the Mountains to Sound Greenway, day in and day out, makes a meaningful difference to the people of this region and to the natural spaces that we all revere. So again, thank you. Let's give another round of applause. And for those of you who've signed up for a mission experience after the breakfast, you're in for a real treat. You'll get to hear directly from some of our staff, learn more about what they do, and see some of our impacts on the ground. So I really encourage you to sign up for one of those if you haven't already, and join one of those trips right after the breakfast. So thank you, Greenway staff, again. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Executive Director of the Mountain to Sound Greenway Trust, John Hoekstra. John.
Good morning, and I'd like to add my welcome to the Greenway Trust Breakfast in the Park. It's really wonderful to see so many of you gathered here today. We're located in beautiful Lake Sammamish State Park, which is right in the heart of the Mountains to Sound Greenway National Heritage Area. And so I want to give a special shout out as well to our friends at State Park and Suzanne Kagan, wherever you are out here. I saw you this morning. There she is. Thank you, Suzanne and State Parks, for hosting us here at Lake Sam for, I think this is our 4th year for the breakfast. 6th, if you count the online versions. You all got to come for the last 4 years. Mike and I have been here a couple extra. I also want to say a big thanks, and please join me in thanking our caterers, Design Perfect, for the excellent spread that we've enjoyed this morning. The donut wall is really cool. I like it. And make sure you smile for the camera if you see Lisa or John Merrill lining up a shot, and Steve's taking some pictures today. So thank you all for capturing the moments for us today. Looking out across the room, it's always nice to see a lot of familiar faces, but I also see a lot of new faces. How many of you here for the very first time to a Greenway Breakfast? Excellent. Welcome. I'm really glad that you're here to join us to learn about the Greenway. And for those of you that have been here before, welcome back. We hope that you will try to make this an annual tradition with us. We can keep getting a bigger tent, so let's do it. I hope that this morning is going to fill your belly with some good food. We hope we're going to fill your head with some better understanding about the Greenway and about the work of the Greenway Trust. And especially, I hope we're going to fill your heart with some inspiration so that you want to step up and join us in taking care of the Mountain to Sound Greenway with your financial contributions, and also by joining into some of our volunteer opportunities. So what is the Greenway for those of you that might be new to this event? Maybe you've seen the highway sign as you're driving out of Issaquah along I-90. Maybe you've ridden your bicycle across the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail over Lake Washington. Greenway is all of those things and more. It surrounds us here at Lake Sammamish State Park. It's the stunningly scenic corridor that connects ecosystems and communities from Seattle all the way to Ellensburg across the Cascades. It encompasses 1.5 million acres of nationally significant lands and waters that are steeped in history, rich in biodiversity, and alive in culture and history and heritage. For 35 years, the Greenway Trust has been the organization solely committed to conserving and enhancing the Greenway, protecting and restoring wildlife habitat, building and maintaining trails, connecting youth to the outdoors through environmental education. To do our work, to accomplish our mission, we harness the power of partnerships. We collaborate with government agencies, businesses, other nonprofits, and community groups to take on projects that are bigger than any one of us. And through those collaborations, we nurture a coalition of people who share a commitment to caring for the Greenway now and into the future. We invite each of you to become a part of this Greenway coalition. On your tables this morning, you can find our hot off the press, brand new Greenway volunteer passports. If you haven't already thumbed through it, I invite you to start doing that. If you are somebody that likes a quest, this is going to be a lot of fun. When you participate in different Greenway events across the landscape, you can collect stamps, and as you collect stamps, bless you, you can earn prizes. Better yet, if you go on this quest to fill in your volunteer passport, you will be rewarded by seeing beautiful places all across the Greenway. You'll learn new skills and information. You'll meet people that, like you, share a care for this place. And you're going to feel that sense of pride and purpose that comes from rolling up your sleeves and being part of stewarding the Greenway. Our program today is going to feature 3 presenters who will help you better understand the important role that the Greenway Trust plays in this place and this time, and how you can support the organization now and into the future. To set the stage for our first speaker, I want to turn our attention to a current crisis in the Greenway, and frankly, a crisis that's affecting public lands all across the country. You've no doubt heard and read news stories over the past year about the plight of our public lands. At the U.S. Forest Service, which manages some 40% of the Mountains to Sound Greenway landscape, mass layoffs and severe budget cuts have undermined the ability of this vital agency to manage forest health, reduce the risk and respond to wildfires, and to maintain roads and trails. At the state level, cuts to maintenance budgets are forcing the Washington Department of Natural Resources to close trails and campgrounds, including several popular sites right here in the Greenway. And after this winter's epic flooding and storms, State Parks is scrambling to repair a major washout on the Palouse to Cascades Trail and to fix 2 bridges right here in Lake Sammamish State Park that were damaged by the storms. These agencies are long-term and vital partners who are responsible for managing some of the most cherished and ecologically sensitive places in the Greenway. To support our partners and to address the on-the-ground impacts that we're already seeing, the Greenway Trust has already jumped into action. We've doubled the number of volunteer stewardship events that we're hosting to repair storm damage, restore natural habitats, and maintain trails. We've expanded our Trailhead Ambassador programs to include presence at snow parks during winter and at various trailheads in Kittitas County this summer. We've teamed up with State Parks and Evergreen Mountain Bikes to plan, and Evergreen's now building a reroute around the washout on the Palouse to Cascades Trail. We've advocated to state legislatures and to Congress for important conservation programs and against policies that would have sold off or rolled back protections for our public lands. We're talking with the U.S. Forest Service about taking on certain projects and providing certain services for which they still have funding but no longer have the staff to do it themselves. We can't replace these agencies, but we can and we will do everything we can to help and support them through this hard time. And we are actively raising money. And because these shortfalls that we're experiencing now aren't going to go away quickly or easily, we're actively raising money to establish a $10 million stewardship fund that will help take care of the Middle Fork Snoqualmie River Valley forever. Our first speaker this morning knows more than a thing or two about the importance of our public lands, the challenges that we're facing, and the unique role and impact of the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trust. As a lifelong outdoors woman, Sally Jewell appreciates how nature and access to the outdoors are irreplaceable elements of life in the Pacific Northwest. As the former CEO of REI, Sally was well aware of the value of parks and public lands to the long-term success of local businesses. During her service as Secretary of the Interior, Sally was responsible for some 400 million acres of public lands all across the United States. She saw firsthand the dedication of the agency's public servants and understands the challenges now facing our public land agencies. And as a founding board member and former board president of the Greenway Trust, Sally has witnessed how the Greenway Trust has helped protect, restore, and steward the cherished public lands of the Mountains to Sound Greenway. Please join me in welcoming Sally Jewell to the stage.
Well, hi, everybody. You know, I look around this group and so many of my fellow board members from the 1990s are here, and don't we all think of ourselves as young? Like, what happened? What happened? We're the old guard here. I have to say that, you know, when I served in President Obama's cabinet from 2013 to 17, I thought, thank you. That wasn't intended to be an applause line, but I thought times were tough. We were dealing with sequestration. We were dealing with budget cuts in agencies. You know, President Obama had just reconciled the fiscal cliff, and we were in the process of sequestration. What I realize today is those were the good old days, right? It's a tough time. But to my earlier point about this gray hair that I'm now sporting, 61 years ago, as a 9-year-old child growing up in the Pacific Northwest, I remember traveling the old Sunset Highway on a school bus on the way to my ski lesson at Snoqualmie Pass. As we passed by the Dairy Freeze in North Bend, and yes, it was in business at that time, I knew it was time to start lacing up my leather ski boots, both layers of them, the inside and the outside layer. And gazing out the window at the strange mix of dark green forest squares, followed by squares of bald white stubble, it confused me. Why did trees grow in squares? And why did we cut them down all at once? In those days, the checkerboard ownership of the forests between private timber companies, the U.S. Forest Service, and the state dominated the landscape. And what was confusing to my young eyes had to be even more confusing to the animals that called this home. Just say, if you look at the map behind me, you see the squares, but you see changes. You see a lot of contiguous landscapes. You see a lot of crosshatched areas. You see massive changes that most people don't recognize, but I'm sure that now my 11-year-old grandson, as he goes to his ski lessons, sees a very different landscape thanks to the work of this organization. You can clap for that, absolutely. So when the Mountains to Sound Greenway was founded in 1991 to build awareness of the multifaceted history and culture and natural beauty of this region, and provide thoughtful oversight of the largely forested yet vulnerable landscapes along I-90, Jim Ellis shaped a board comprised of a broad coalition of different interests. Business leaders like myself at the time sat at tables sharing dinner with U.S. Forest Service leaders, environmentalists, community activists, timber companies, tribal leaders, elected officials, public servants, real estate developers, and more, so we could get to know each other as people. We collectively knew that the presence of I-90 would become a magnet for development in our growing region. At that time, the U.S. Forest Service was focused primarily on the timber side of its mission, periodically selling trees off public land to raise money and support industry. Doug McClellan, who's here with his little dog, there he is, right over there, and he was also a former Greenway Trust board president, was leading the state's Department of Natural Resources Tiger Mountain State Forest and working on the Greenway's first technical advisory committee. I recall an early opportunity for the Greenway board to tour the Tiger Mountain Forest with Doug for a lesson on what sustainable forestry looked like in one of the state's working forests, and why timber harvest was an important component of the state budget. That's just one of many learning lessons that I've had in this journey. But over time, as pressures for breathing space and recreation grew along I-90, we began to see a shift. Priorities for the U.S. Forest Service evolved to include more of a focus on recreational uses, campgrounds, trails, parking, and restrooms. Pressures for timber sales on public lands waned and were replaced by pressures for conservation, including recreation and important challenges like wildlife habitat and animal migration. The checkerboard land ownership began to be reshaped by land exchanges, including a very major one called the Huckleberry Land Exchange that Charlie Raines, I don't know, is Charlie here? No, but he often is. Charlie really took a laboring oar on. And that made economic commercial timber harvests for private companies more economic by shifting out their ownership in other parts of the state for contiguous landscapes that we see forming behind us on this map. Federal government funding through the Land and Water Conservation Fund and Forest Legacy Program helped the Greenway purchase land to place it into public ownership. So things like the Grand Ridge and Grand Prospect, early projects of the Mountains to Sound Greenway, is now a vibrant hiking area, mountain biking park, and what was kind of a scrubby little regrowing forest is getting greener and greener every time I go up there and getting more and more popular. The U.S. Forest Service deepened its relationship with the Greenway Trust, encouraging stewardship projects that removed hillside scars and erosion from old logging roads, improved trails and facilities, leading to increased visitation to these landscapes that are so iconic within our state. Education and stewardship programs within the Greenway by many organizations introduced children, including my own, who are now in their 40s, that tells you something, to the importance of forests for clean water, clean air, wildlife habitat, and our own health and well-being, which we know is so critical. And isn't it lovely to be here at Lake Sammamish State Park, which is in as good or better shape as I've ever seen it. I know the lawn's been freshly mowed, probably for us, but what a beautiful place. Instead of, yes, let's give Lake Sammamish a hand. And I have to say, with dogged determination and advocacy by people like Mark Boyer and his Middle Fork Coalition, our elected officials recommended greater protections close by here through expansion of the Alpine Lakes Wilderness, with federal legislation passed in 2014 that increased the lands designated as wilderness by 22,000 acres down to the Middle Fork of the Snoqualmie River, while granting the Middle Fork, Snoqualmie, and the Pratt protected status as national wild and scenic rivers. Yeah. The similar partnerships have introduced greater opportunities for sustainable land uses on the east side of the Cascade Crest in the Yakima River watershed, with a lot more happening and a lot more to come there. And while volunteer stewardship has always been a part of the Greenway Trust's focus, alongside many other nonprofit organizations and partnerships, like John referenced, the engagement and support of our public servants has been critical, especially in agencies like the U.S. Forest Service, the state DNR, the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, and Washington State Parks, our host this morning, as John pointed out. So I'd just like to ask anyone who has been or is currently a public servant at any level of government, local, county, state, tribal, or federal, please raise your hands so we can give you all a round of applause. Thank you, public servants. It's hard to be a public servant. You have to sit there and take the incoming, and you really can't say anything. You're not allowed to advocate politically for things that you know need to be done. You just quietly get your job done. You deal with the toilet that's plugged, the bathroom that's out of toilet paper, the trail that's fallen apart, the bridge that's falling down. And it's hard. And that was during the good old days. Things have changed. Volunteers are an important component of stewardship. They build on efforts of our public servants. It used to be, not that long ago, that volunteers helped provide the margin of excellence needed for sustainable stewardship of our lands. But that's definitely not the case right now. Right now, volunteers are the margin of survival for public lands that we know and love today. To say that our public land stewardship is at a crisis point right now is an understatement. So we really do need your help and your support now more than ever before. So here's a few facts to kind of back up some of the comments that John made. In the last 16 months alone, 11,000 U.S. Forest Service employees lost their jobs nationally. They've gone from an agency of 39,000 to an agency of 28,000, with additional cuts coming. The Snoqualmie Ranger District alone went from 12 permanent recreation staff plus 15 seasonals, so during the busy summer months, that's 27 people, down to only 2 permanent recreation staff and no seasonals. That's where we are right now. Our state has been facing a budget deficit for the past 2 years, and despite hard work by the Washington Trails Association and many advocates to obtain dedicated funding to address maintenance backlogs on recreation lands and state parks, the funding for the Department of Natural Resources, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and state parks maintenance dropped from $15 million in 2022 to under $10 million in the current year, with future cuts likely, making it difficult for limited staff to keep the lands and facilities maintained despite increase in visitation and, as John mentioned, damage from the storms that we experienced recently. And those do happen, and they're happening with greater frequency. So the Greenway Trust has worked hard in partnership with many others. I mean, it is an organization that welcomes and recognizes many other nonprofit organizations that do this work. So the Great American Outdoors Act, which was passed in 2020, was landmark bipartisan legislation that I worked on behind the scenes that provided full and permanent funding for the Land and Water Conservation Fund. A trusting relationship between the Greenway and the U.S. Forest Service helped reshape funding guidelines to facilitate the ability of nonprofits to qualify and accept these grants to complete important projects, which has been super, super helpful. This opened doors for the Greenway to support priority projects from design and implementation to engaging with partners, contractors, volunteers, and agency staff to get the projects done. It's a great example of using federal money with tremendous leverage by working with the community. So here's a few examples of important stewardship projects facilitated by the Greenway Trust, including some made possible with this federal money. The Middle Fork Trail, if you haven't been out on it, it's absolutely amazing, and it didn't exist not too many years ago. Across and upstream of the Arch Bridge, we had a landslide in 2008 that took out the trail, and it remained washed out until 2012 due to lack of budget for the repairs. The Greenway Trust provided project planning assistance. They found private funding, including a lot of money from REI through crowdfunding and through direct contributions, and assisted with implementation to get this primary multi-use trail up the valley back open to the public. That's one. Camp Brown, which is part of the larger Middle Fork campaign, presented an extraordinarily rare opportunity to create a wheelchair-accessible trail and picnic tables along a wild and scenic river. The Greenway Trust found private funding, including a large grant from Boeing, which served as a match to win federal funding to get this special project done. Again, with site planning and implementation by the Greenway Trust community volunteers. John took me out there, it's pretty amazing. The Greenway Trust partnered with the Cle Elum Ranger District to run a Trailhead Ambassadors program that he also mentioned. So this is the Cle Elum Ranger District on the east side. The U.S. Forest Service has funding for the program, but lacks staffing to support it. The program meets an important need to provide public education on responsible recreation, reducing visitor impact, and improving safety. And I know as a visitor to these places, I see the Trailhead Ambassadors, and it makes a big difference in helping us enjoy these places, but enjoy them in a way where we're smarter about how to do it with less impact and more respectfully for the Native communities who stewarded these lands since time immemorial. At Issaquah Creek, right here, the Greenway Trust has worked with Washington State Parks for 20 years on restoring natural conditions to this important salmon stream, which is one of the most degraded watersheds in King County. 15 years of planning and partner coordination led to a huge in-stream restoration project just last year, placing hundreds of log structures in the creek to restore natural contours and crucial habitats to nurture hatchling salmon as they grow. And as John mentioned, lastly, the Middle Fork fundraising campaign was rapidly launched by the Greenway when the paving of the Middle Fork commenced. The Forest Service knew that was going to drive the recreational uses in the valley. It was going to skyrocket, but they lacked the budget to expand facilities to meet that demand. In addition to trails and trailheads, Greenway-led funding and planning assistance increased the number of restroom facilities in the valley from 4 to 15. Yeah. That's the good news. You can imagine what 15 restrooms in one small part of the Snoqualmie Ranger District would look like after a busy summer weekend without additional support. So if you want a very close to home and real example of why the Stewardship Fund is important, that's one. So the Greenway team is in the final stages of raising the $10 million to fund the stewardship of the Middle Fork in perpetuity. It is the wild backyard of Seattle Metro. It's 97% publicly owned. It's the kind of high-use place that could really suffer from the ongoing cuts to recreation management. I know firsthand, as a hiker visiting the Middle Fork, because my favorite hike was Mailbox before we fixed up the trail, made it longer but a lot easier on the knees. But during those times, there was a lot of bad action going on in the forest around there. King County had to clean up multiple meth labs to the tune of over $1 million apiece because of the toxicity. Wade Holden and his nonprofit pulled 52 cars out of the river and talked about just how disgusting it was to find paint cans that had paint in them, shot with holes in them to allow the paint to run down the river by the people that took to shooting paint cans as sport. So we know what happens when we don't have effective stewardship and we don't have the right kind of eyes on a place like the Middle Fork. But the Greenway Trust is committed to the Middle Fork long term and hopes to reach the campaign goal by late this year, so care for this amazing place can be sustained. So I call on all of you, in addition to thanking public servants when you're out and about, if you're lucky to find one on the trail, which is going to be harder, I hope you can help in some way, like volunteering on public lands in whatever way works for you and your capacity, supporting the Middle Fork Stewardship Fund if you're able, and using your voice in the community to raise awareness with our elected officials of the importance of providing sustained support for our treasured public lands through investments in the taxes that we all pay. So I just want to end by thanking you all for being here, thanking you for recognizing what the lands and waters of this region mean to all of us, and the opportunity that we all have to leave them better for the generations to follow us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sally. Our next speaker is someone who's still writing the first chapters of their leadership story. Prithvi Dasan is a 2025 alumnus of the Greenway Trust's Youth Engaged in Sustainable Systems, or YES, internship program. Last summer, he applied his passions for science, advocacy, and the outdoors towards restoring local ecosystems while earning some money and gaining some work experience. Prithvi is now a senior and soon-to-be graduate of Interlake High School in Bellevue and is stoked to be attending the University of Washington in Seattle this fall to study microbiology as a pre-med student. Prithvi.
First of all, good morning, everyone. I'm Prithvi, and I'm so excited to be here today. I want to thank the Greenway Trust for inviting me to speak to you all about my experiences as a YES intern. Before the YES program, or the Youth Engaged in Sustainable Systems program, I was someone who absolutely despised getting my hands dirty. The only way you'd find me anywhere even close to dirt was when my mom forced me to work in our backyard garden, and even then, I usually spent more time complaining than actually helping. Nevertheless, on some whim, I decided to apply and spend a good chunk of my summer doing the YES program. If I'm being honest, it was the longest program available on the website, and I was desperate to find some way to spend my summer that wouldn't include rotting in bed staring at my phone. So, over the next 6 weeks, instead of doom scrolling on TikTok for hours and hours, I found myself immersed in Washington's beautiful public lands. We'd spend our Mondays inside the classroom at the Riverview Learning Center in Carnation, learning the ecology and science behind our environment. Then, we spent the remaining 4 days bustling around various points around the Snoqualmie Valley to do actual hands-on fieldwork and restoration, and in between all of that, we still found time to eat some ice cream. Those 6 weeks completely changed my perspective on the importance of public lands. Before the YES program, I actually considered myself quite the outdoorsman, even if I didn't like getting my hands dirty. I had the privilege of visiting over 130 National Park Service sites, starting from the very first year me and my family moved to the US from India. I assume many of you here have also enjoyed public lands just as I have, such as the gorgeous Lake Sammamish State Park that we're all sitting in right now. But back then, I was just a tourist. I completely took for granted all the amenities available in these various parks and national areas. The clean bathrooms, the clear trail signs, the conveniently placed trash cans. I expected them to just be there, even when I'd find myself hours away from any major city or town. I remember how amazed I was when we could even buy gas in the middle of Death Valley National Park, although, granted, it was $8 a gallon. Through the YES program, the curtain was pulled back. I finally realized just how much grueling time, human effort, and funding it takes to upkeep these public lands for everyone. I quickly learned that nature isn't just what you see on a postcard. It takes work. I remember standing in the middle of a dense thicket, getting tiny stinging cuts all over my arms while grubbing out stubborn blackberry roots. I remember pulling English ivy vines that felt like they stretched for miles and miles, and standing under the summer sun, scraping lichen off of trail signs for an hour just so a hiker wouldn't get lost. I quickly learned that nature, oh, never mind, that's what I just said. But it wasn't just physical labor, it was scientific and intellectual investment. Even counting tree species to measure biodiversity or creating a comprehensive restoration plan for a small plot of land took immense planning, critical thinking, and resources. We love recreating in public lands, but I don't think the average visitor truly appreciates the sheer magnitude of hard work it takes to make these lands so enjoyable. We're starting to see the cracks in the foundation. I'm sure some of you have seen recent news photos of overflowing trash cans, out-of-service toilets and restrooms, and sudden restrictions or closures in public lands all around the nation. It just goes to show how fragile the infrastructure maintaining these lands really is. When you look around at this beautiful park today, remember that it doesn't look this way by accident or happenstance. It looks this way because of intentional care. If the system faces strain, it's up to people like you and me to step up, give back, and support these treasures that benefit our mental and physical health in so many ways. This means encouraging young people like me to join programs like YES, educating your family and friends on how to care for the environment, and crucially, contributing to organizations like the Greenway Trust. Your support here today directly funds the tools, the transportation, and the educational frameworks that transform phone-obsessed teenagers like me into lifelong stewards for our environment. Thank you for investing in our public lands, and thank you for investing in the future generations that will protect them.
Thank you, Prithvi. We are clearly in good hands in the years to come. Our final speaker today is a longtime leader and dear friend from the Greenway Trust Board of Directors, Ken Kravanek. Ken is Division President of Tri-Point Homes for Washington and Utah, locally headquartered in Bellevue. And in just a few weeks, he will mark 20 years of service on the Greenway Trust Board of Directors. Ken holds dear the value of the outdoors to our community and is passionate about bringing new people into this big tent we call the Mountains to Sound Greenway community. I'm excited for him to share more about that and how you can contribute to the Greenway this morning. Ken.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be with you. What a great day we have today. This is probably arguably the nicest day that we've had so far this year, right? I'd like to thank my table for their support. Thank you for being here and for your support. I'd like to thank Josh Lipsky, John Hoekstra for their remarks, and Sally Jewell for her remarks. It was great to hear from her, and I remember many board meetings that we had up at North Bend. Not North Bend, but we had a lot of meetings where she was deliberate in what she meant about sustainability, and so I appreciate that. And Prithvi, thank you for your remarks. I appreciate it. The Greenway Board of Directors, the Greenway staff, Mike and Amy, they are an incredible team. And Mike has done a great job. He's back there. And he's done a great job on getting the 10 million, close to the 10 million. So, and thank you for each of you. Thank you for being here, each and every one of you. It means a lot to me. This has been an incredible experience to be part of this Greenway for almost 20 years. And it's been, many of you have been here for 20 plus years, almost 35 for some of you. So thank you for being here. I want to make this personal because it is for me. It's personal and it's professional, but it's really personal. My wife and I grew up really in Snoqualmie Ridge, and we had 4 daughters. We have 4 daughters. The youngest is going to be graduating from high school this year. And so we've been a big part of the Greenway for all those years. And our dog Samson, who has passed away, but we have Finn now. And that has been an incredible experience to know that we could get on the trails, on bikes, on feet. It's been an incredible experience to know that they have learned something from all this. They have learned that it's economics that help provide this, but it's also your support and your support of the trail system. It's support of the Greenway in its beginnings and its endings. And so with that, I want to talk about work for a minute. Work has been something that's been important to me. And for 27 years, I've been part of this organization here, and it's been incredible. And almost 20 of that has been here with the Greenway. And we tend to take for granted the things that mean the most to us. But at our company, it's cultural. You think about what it takes to drive success in a business. This is our 57th year in business in this marketplace. And it's something that's been incredible to watch. And you think about everything that John said, Sally said, and you think about the current environment that we're in. It's difficult. It's difficult to understand how you pay $6+ per gallon for gas. And it's incredible to understand what it costs to buy groceries these days. And so all these things make a difference in everybody's lives. I know that to be true. And when I think about the ask, I think about work. I think about what it takes to buy a home these days, and it's incredible. In this marketplace, it's incredible. The communities that we serve are great, and they are vast. And we are currently in 3 to 4 counties that we are currently operating in. And we have a great relationship with the cities and the counties that we work in. And our work is something that we volunteer a great deal for the Greenway. And we've pulled a lot of blackberries, I'll tell you that much, through the years. And we've been part of success, and we've been out here in Lake Sammamish to help. So it's been something that we've really appreciated, and will continue to do that. So here's the ask. I have 4 things that I want to talk about, and it's all about now. It's all about now is the time to give. Now is the time to think about what it takes to give to the Greenway. Now, you give a lot of time and a lot of money to the Greenway, and for those who give time, I appreciate that. The staff, the board of directors, there's a lot of time given. And for those who are here that give time, thank you for that. And for those who think about now is the most important time to protect our environment, that's the second now. Now, the first is most important time to give. Now is the most important time to protect our environment. And third is now is the right time to be part of a great organization. And fourth, now is the most important time to give back to the next generation. So when you think about those individually, that it's important that we understand what it takes to give. And we all pretty much live in the Greenway. I do live in the Greenway, and my office is in the Greenway. And we have an obligation that goes with living in the Greenway. And what we're trying to do is enroll as many people as possible in this cause. And it's incredible to understand how many people give to the Greenway. And it's almost 750 people that give to the Greenway currently. And I think we could double that if we work hard at understanding what it takes to give. And it could be $5, it could be $15, it could be $500, it could be $5,000. It doesn't really matter how much, but if you do give, it does matter, because you are making a difference to this, everything that we have here. And it does make a difference to trail maintenance. It does make a difference to education and what we do differently every day as a Greenway. because it is a daily concern that we have, that we honor this, we placate to giving, and we try to do this in a way that makes sense. And so for each of you, I appreciate what you do to give. And I give my commitment to not only giving, but matching at our table everything that we do give. And I think that that's important when you think about, as a company and as an individual, what it takes to give. So with that, let me just say that it's time to give. It's time to be part of this something big, and it's time to be part of something special. And it's time to give, and it's time to be, when you think about what it takes now to give, in a market that is something that's a little bit tighter. Things are tighter for all of us. And it's something that is beautiful when you think about it. When you think about everything that we do is for this environment. And for the next generation that we have to give for, that's something that's worth giving for. So with that, I'm going to conclude by asking you to give as much as you can today, this day. Now is a time to give. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Prithvi. Thank you, Josh. I'll follow on Ken's call to please give now. We welcome and we appreciate your contributions today. There's a QR code on your table if you want to do it by your phone. I think there's some donation cards, so I'm going to let you choose your method as you like, Meredith.
Reminding everyone that if you are able and choose to give $500, that
Yep.
will be matched.
Yes, thank you. I'll repeat that. Meredith is just reminding, if you are able and inclined to give $500 or more, the board is matching those gifts today up to $40,000. So this is the time. While you're doing that, I do just want to provide some closing remarks. When we face so many threats on our public lands, it can feel daunting. It can feel overwhelming. But when you think about everything that our public lands provide, clean air, clean water, wildlife habitat, outdoor access, scenery, sanctuary, I hope you're inspired. I hope you're motivated to join the Greenway Trust as we rise to the challenges before us. Each of us makes a difference, and together we will make an impact. By supporting the Greenway Trust this morning, you'll join a community that has worked often against great odds, but always with strong conviction and good spirit to conserve and enhance the Mountains to Sound Greenway and to preserve and nurture our cherished connections to nature. Thank you for making a contribution today to support the Greenway Trust's work, and thank you for being a friend of the Mountains to Sound Greenway. Well, well, this concludes our formal program this morning. I hope it's just the start of your relationship with the Greenway and your support and participation in the Greenway going forward. As a send-off, just a few parting announcements. First, we have a special giveaway today. In addition to asking you to help us, we've got a little something for some of you. If you look at your seats, 10 lucky attendees this morning have a ribbon tied to your chair. If you have a ribbon tied to your chair, you are a winner. Congratulations. And we have a special prize of appreciation back at the outreach table as you leave. So grab your ribbon and pick that up on your way out. Everybody's looking now. Who has a ribbon? While you're looking, I'll also say to know the Greenway is to love the Greenway, and we hope that you'll continue to deepen that relationship this summer by getting out on the landscape with us. The events calendar on our website, mtsgreenway.org, is packed with volunteer events and educational events in the Greenway this summer. Grab your passport, sign up to maintain a trail, or if you're feeling especially brave, come and maybe join Ken pulling some blackberry. You can also join us for a guided interpretive hike. We're going to have a history hike in the Middle Fork, Snoqualmie Valley. We're also going to have the very popular Lead a Llama. That's right, Lead a Llama in the Channaway Community Forest. And if you've signed up for a mission experience, your experienced leaders will be holding signs between here and the Meadow Shelter to my right, starting at about 10:15 for 10:30 departures. So if you're signed up for a mission experience, look for a Greenway staff member holding a sign for your experience in about 15 minutes. But with that, I want to say thank you again for joining us today. Thank you for supporting the Greenway. Thank you for being part of this community. I hope to see you out on the landscape this summer and back here next spring. Thanks for joining us at the Spring Breakfast.